Hey, John here. I got a question from Aaron regarding sloppy barring when it comes to arpeggios. So I thought I'd address that in a video because that's a question I get quite a lot. Basically, what you want to do is to make sure you get the technique right for barring, and that includes how to place the finger correctly and also how to get the motion correct. And finally, we're gonna work with short notes. So first things first. All right, so where do you place your finger? So let's say we have a barred arpeggio here, an F minor. So first three strings, so we got 16, 13, 13, 13. If you're new to this, or even if you've done it before, but you have been kind of hit or miss with the placement of the finger, start at the lowest note, and this goes for any type of barring you want to do in this sort of arpeggio context. Start on the lowest note in pitch, and then place that as you would place it normally. So just fret it as you normally would, and then you go up, and now you will have the perfect placement for the start of this barring from the highest note. So you just want to get used to that feeling, so you keep placing your finger that way consistently, because this will build the muscle memory the fastest, and also your overall playing will be more consistent when you do this. So again, you start on the lowest note and then find the highest note that way, and then you can, even if you relax your finger and then really pluck it hard with the right hand, you can get a real physical sensation of where on the fingertip you need to place the finger. And like I said, this works for any type of barring, any finger. So if you want to play like a B flat major arpeggio here, where I bar these notes, again, when I worked all these shapes out, I did it this way. I found the perfect placement and then did that consistently. So now it's just part of my muscle memory. Alright, so that's the placement of the finger. The actual technique for the motion between the strings here is you kind of roll over the strings. So only the string you're playing should have any pressure. And the way to do this is, it's going to be a bit dependent upon how much you can, flatten your finger like this. But even if you can flatten it a lot, I think it's more efficient to use your wrist to push forward like this. So if I just play this arpeggio repeatedly, you can see how my wrist moves back and forth. So you can see I have some flattening going on in the finger, but it's a lot of this motion. So that's a very important part, because if you try to flatten too much, I think, will hurt, and it's not very quick either. This is very easy though, and it's kind of easy to get into a rhythm with it as well. Third part here is a technique that I use for arpeggios overall, and I have great success with students who have, issues with articulation. It's where you cut the notes short by not muting with the right hand, but actually releasing the pressure of the notes in the left hand. So like this, if we play this one again. So every note except the highest note now, I will release the pressure really quickly, like this. So you can see it's still the same technique, it's just that I release the string, not like that, but I release the pressure, so it's muted. And the reasoning behind that is to really get used to controlling the articulation of the notes at a slow tempo. And you might think like, well, that sounds kind of crappy, and it does. But when you speed things up, basically with these are the notes, and you at first you have a big gap here in between because the notes are so short, but when you speed up, you're gonna basically remove the gap between the notes, so now the notes will feel really perfectly articulated because they're closer together now in time, so to speak. So if I do it like this, So So when I sped it up like that, the notes were pretty much the same length, more or less, but you don't hear the choppiness because they're way closer together. Hopefully you know what I mean. And the reason why I don't cut this note short is just because I want that to ring so I can do the pull off. Technically I could still do a pull off, I guess, but it's just easier to keep it going if I don't cut this one short. So same thing would be if I have like a hammer on somewhere, like say I play this B flat shape again. So this one is also long, but this one is short. An exercise you can use to get used to this barring technique is, it doesn't sound very good, but it's very effective. So if you spend maybe 5-10 minutes on this for a few weeks, I think you will get the barring under control. Very important though that you play this very slowly and you make sure that you have no overlap at all, because that defeats the whole purpose of the exercise. And also, if it's really hard for you at first, it's a good idea to start with 2 strings. So the exercise just goes like this. So I'm going to start at the 9th fret here, and then start on the B string. So I'm going to go up like that, and then I'm going to go down with the 2nd finger. Then I go up with the 3rd finger, down with the 4th. So and once I've done that, I move up a fret and go up with the 4th finger, down with the 3rd, up with the 2nd, down with the 1st. So we get to work on both directions with all fingers. So the complete exercise will sound like this. And you should try this in all string pairs. So then you can extend it to 3 strings. So same thing, but you just go 3. So I used to practice this really slowly and making sure that every note is clean, so no overlapping here. So and of course you don't need to loop it like that, you can keep going up the fretboard. And like I said, it doesn't sound very good, so I don't know, practice with a low volume or something. To recap, you need to get the placement of the finger right, and you do that by playing the lowest note of any barred situation, and then going up to the highest string in that barring thing, and then you'll find the perfect placement for that, initial string. And you also need to get the motion right, which is, rolling your wrist forward. And how much or little you need to do that depends on your fingers. Working on articulation by shortening the notes. So if you can focus on those 3 things, I think you'll find that barring will be way easier in the future. It takes a while to get right, but I really think it's a crucial guitar technique. And I know there's amazing players like Jason Richardson that basically avoids barring as much as possible, but even he says that certain shapes he needs to bar. And if I look at Frank Gambale, he bars a lot, and he's probably one of the cleanest players out there. So if he can do it, anyone can do it. So it's just a matter of practicing, and then you'll get it down. And I think if you can do the barring, at least you have a choice then if you want to, refinger it some way, or if you just want to go with the bar. And certain things I think are pretty much impossible to play without using barring. So again, I hope this helps. Any questions, just post them below. Otherwise, have a great weekend.